got to dig deep to win these type of games. So thankfully, we have another opportunity to go do it. Very confident that we can go do it.
As I'm sure everyone listening to this is aware, the Warriors lost a gut-wrenching 115-107 Game 6 to the Rockets at home, capped off by a pathetic fourth quarter. Our guest today, Jack Loder from KNBR, the sports leader in the Bay Area, was at the game last night in the press box covering the Dubs. Jack, how was the game live? What was Chase Center like last night?
Game live was cool. I'll start with that. Always cool to be on the ground for a playoff game. Chase Center had some pretty good energy. I'm not going to say it was Oracle level energy, but it was, the crowd was into it. I don't think that the Warriors can blame the fans for this one. Most people had the shirts on. I think hopefully it wasn't the last game at Chase, because I think people are really starting to get it, and most people did have the shirts on.
Seems like they're bullying him to wear them too, which I'm all for.
Definitely. And I was obviously in press row. You're not wearing shirts. You're not wearing like merch. But when I was walking around the stadium, I was looking at people. I was giving the evil eye to people who didn't have the shirts on. But obviously a hugely disappointing result, a really, really disappointing effort from the Warriors. I had a bad feeling going into the game. I don't know if you're in that same boat, Garrett, but I kind of just thought like they messed with the basketball gods a little bit by mailing it in Game 5. And just saying, and they disrespected the Rockets by saying, like, you know what, like, you can have this one in Houston, like, we'll just beat you in Game 6. I think the Rockets came into Game 6 saying, screw you. You think you can basically take a pass in a playoff game and you're just going to beat us on our home floor? We're going to come in, we're going to beat you. With the help of you missing, like, every open shot you take, we'll beat you. So, super disappointing result, but I don't think it was undeserved for the Warriors. And here we are now, Game 7 on the road that I don't feel great about.
Yeah, they look like a team that thought Houston was just going to roll over, and they didn't have the energy, any like intensity. It felt like it was like a preseason game or a regular season game, and not Game 6 do or die, where they're now facing a potential 3-1 collapse, as I'm sure your Twitter timeline has been covered in. Everyone is all excited to rub 2016 in our face again.
Yeah.
It was, and we can get into specifics. It felt like just a combined team effort of shittiness. I want to say Jimmy Butler was the best Warrior on the floor last night, but
probably
the entire team was 1 for 16 to start the fourth quarter, the first 9 minutes of the fourth quarter. It was a 2-point lead, and I guess we can start with the most frustrating, mind-boggling play of the night, which is out of the third quarter timeout, start of the fourth quarter, and everyone's matching up. 5 seconds into the fourth, Gary Payton on the floor to guard Fred VanVleet as best as he can, and not only gives up the wide open 3, but fouls him on the follow through. And that was just the game right there. It went from a 2-point to 6-point game in 6 seconds.
The energy in the building during that commercial break between the third and fourth quarter was electric. People were hyped up. It felt like the Warriors were down 4 to 8 points for like 2 hours, and they finally cut it to 2. And everyone's like, okay, like let's make our move now. It's like they've kind of been sitting, like a NASCAR analogy. They've kind of been sitting in the pocket, and they're going to make their move on this turn. And it was like all of a sudden, whoa, what? We're down 6 again on one play, like 5 or 6 seconds into the quarter. And Draymond Green and Steph Curry, and I think Steve Kerr too, highlighted that play in the postgame as just an inexplicable mishap. And I guess it was Gary Payton's fault. No one really mentioned it by name, obviously, in the postgame, but an inexplicable defensive lapse on a guy, Fred VanVleet, who is shooting out of his mind right now. I mean, like, defense notwithstanding, Fred VanVleet is a marksman right now. It's given us all flashbacks to the 2019 finals against the Raptors. PTSD, right? He's not the guy that Warriors fans want to see loading up a 3. But yeah, that was brutal. And the entire fourth quarter, it seemed like a nightmare. Like, I was like, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to pinch myself, and it's going to be 12 minutes on the clock again, like, and we're going to be down 2. Like, to see all of a sudden the Rockets are up 12, and I said to myself, like, when they were down 6 and then 8, I was like, if it gets to 10, it's over. They can't let it get to 10. I said that for most of the second half because the Warriors just were so disjointed offensively. Every bucket that the Warriors got last night felt like a chore. It felt like okay, like they put one in because they weren't hitting open shots, and they were getting dominated in the paint. Sengun has been playing incredibly in the paint. Steven Adams, another PTSD Warriors flashback. I mean, not quite to the villain level of other guys, but just a guy that I think has played pretty well against the Warriors in his career. He's playing well at an older age, and the Warriors got nothing easy, and it felt like if they went down 10 at any point that they weren't going to be able to have that vintage Warriors or even Steph fueled run, even though he did have that second quarter run by himself. But basically, to rein myself back in here, if they got down 10, I didn't think they had the firepower in that game to get back in it, and they did not.
It's because they had no rhythm on offense. They were like constantly waiting to the very last seconds of the shot clock to get a bucket in. And give credit to them, Jimmy saved them on some like pretty incredible late shot clock heroics. Like he got fouled on that play heading into halftime. Steph got the foul and the 3 free throws heading into the fourth quarter. Like the Rockets were making mental lapses to keep them into this game. And every time they made a run, the Rockets would follow suit. And give credit, like they really have made, and I'm not the biggest Ime Udoka fan, but he has made some defensive changes with like running that zone. That too big zone between Şengün and Steven Adams is completely giving them fits.
Good. It's an NBA team that can't figure out a zone. What are we doing? It's like watching a college basketball game where a coach will call a timeout and come out with a zone all of a sudden, and these 19-year-old kids don't know what to do. But the spacing is brutal. The rhythm, the rotations are brutal right now. And what kind of sucks to realize is that even if the Warriors had won Game 5, if they'd won last night, if they win Monday, they're not a championship winning team, which is what we kind of probably knew. But they played so well with Butler that I'll admit it. I had aspirations. I was like, maybe they will do. You never doubt Steph, but it doesn't seem like a team that, even if they do win tomorrow, which I'm sub 50% on, I think that they're going to get handled by Minnesota just based on the rest disadvantage alone.
It could be like 2023 again, where even if Steph's at his apex, and I don't think he's going to score 50 points with the level of pressure they're going to put on him, but if he is able to carry them, which I think he 100% will need to do, there's not enough outside scoring. There's really no one outside of him and Jimmy being consistent on offense. But let's say they are able to get a miraculous Steph and Jimmy performance, and they are able to win Game 7 in Houston. It'd be an awesome night. It'd be another 2 weeks shot at this, but they're going to be playing a Minnesota team on 36 hours rest that has been resting since Wednesday, and Anthony Edwards is not going to be scared of anyone. And, I can't stand Rudy Gobert, and I always say he gets, played off in the playoffs, and he does in a lot of years, but like, why can't Rudy Gobert do what Steven Adams has done to the Warriors these last 2 weeks? Like, they don't have the size to, like, that's always been a problem for them, but they're able to usually play bigs off the court when they had Clay and when they had Jordan Poole. But when you don't have the shooting of those guys, like Steven Adams and Alperen Şengün can each play 36 minutes. And Steven Adams, he got his career high in minutes last night. Like
that's insane.
It is insane. He's in his 30s. I mean, he was out for 18 months with knee injury. He is the second most deadly player to me watching the Rockets, but you would never think that coming into the series.
What are your thoughts on Quentin Post? Because I was pulling my hair out last night watching him, and I had to kind of remind myself a couple times, he is a rookie. So it's not entirely like his fault, but wondering why he has had such a prominent role in this series when he is just a defensive liability, and his 3-point shooting value doesn't jump out to me as much to others. So what are your thoughts on Quentin Post?
I think it is the 3-point shooting. Like what we've kind of touched on a little bit is like they don't have the shooting that past teams have had, and they desperately need someone to space the floor. And theoretically, he would be great out there to get 4 or 5 rebounds a game, but he had 1 rebound in 18 minutes last night. And as much as he was an awesome role player, like in the playoffs, this is what we see time and time again in the playoffs. Like big men, particularly big men that get lost and are not able to get offensive rebounds, get played off on the floor. And, he's 22 and has played well above what anyone expected as the 52nd overall pick in this last year's draft. But I don't understand why Steve Kerr gave him 18 minutes last night when the Rockets were going after him all night long and were finding switches and doing whatever they could to get matchups with Quentin Post.
I think Adams and Şengün smell blood when they see Quentin Post checking in, and the Rockets are going to take him making a 3 every once in a while. They're going to take that trade-off for what they get on the offensive end, which is an inexperienced young big who's frankly not as strong as Steven Adams. Not many people are. And Şengün is just leagues better offensively than Post is defensively. So yeah, they smell blood when he's in the game. He was a super frustrating part of last night. I got a list, man. There's so many parts of last night were just so supremely frustrating. And I can't believe going to game 7. After game 4, I was talking shit on Twitter.
I was feeling things. I texted everyone in my contact list. The Warriors are making me feel things again. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
I got the text.
we might, you got the text. We might have not thought it was championship team, but you know, when we're up 3-1 and won without Jimmy Butler, like I was starting to look at tickets to what I thought was going to be the Staples Center in round 2, or I was already starting to think about, all right, I got a summer trip planned in early June. What's that going to look like if I'm 15-hour time difference from these games starting? But do you think Steph has anything left in the tank? He's averaging 41 minutes a game this series, and he clearly didn't have anything left that fourth quarter. He played the entire second half.
I'm never going to doubt Steph. Like, I think the Warriors could win tomorrow night on the back of a Steph game. He scores in the neighborhood of 40 or 35-40, and they win. It's a big moment. I think that could happen. I don't think it's likely. I think what's more likely is if the Warriors win, they scrap it out a bit with the Rockets, and the Rockets feel the lights of a game 7. But this being at home is going to be huge for them. Just being behind those fans in an environment they're familiar with, I think that knocks out a lot of the experience advantage the Warriors have. I think that knocks it down a peg. So I think Steph could go off. He could. But you said it. He's running on fumes right now. He's playing a ton of minutes. He's 37. 3 years ago, he was 34. Like, he's older, more tired. And I think I'm never going to doubt him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's locked down, per se, tomorrow night.
They didn't need him to play 41 minutes a night in 2022. Like, he's taken a bigger workload than he probably ever has. Like, you can maybe even go back to 2015, but during the KD era, like, they had so much depth and so many guys that they could rely on in the non-Steph minutes. And it was a gamble. Steve Kerr made that gamble. He said, we want to close it out tonight. We're going to play him the entire second half, but it's clearly a gamble that didn't pay off. And I think a few of Steve Kerr's gambles this series didn't pay off, but now he's going to be 36 hours later playing 2 time zones away. And if anyone can do it, another long flight. If anyone can do it, it's Steph. And maybe this is just going to add to his Hall of Fame legacy of his Game 7 heroics. But it's asking a lot of a 35 and a 37-year-old to probably get 75 points in this game.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's going to take. I really do. I think they're going to have to be in the 70s together. It's going to have to be Jimmy Butler getting the line. They also missed some free throws last night. Butler missed a free throw. Steph missed a couple, I think. They're going to need to take over offensively, and I think in order for the Warriors to win tomorrow, this sounds obvious, but Pods has got to hit some threes. Moody's got to hit some threes. Maybe Post hit some threes. Like, you can't go 14 or 15 for 49 again. They shot 49 threes last night?
That's insane. 14 for 49? Like, what is that, 27%?
15 for 49.
But they're all too inconsistent. It's no one is consistently scoring. Like, we got an awesome Pods game 4. Yeah. We got an awesome stretch of Buddy Hield. But, like, if you get one night, you're not going to get the other 3 that same night. Like, speaking of role players, do you think we see Jonathan Kuminga? I hate always having to bring him up, but Steve Kerr did say after in his press conference last night that everything's on the table and there's a very real shot that he does play.
I think he probably plays just because I don't know what to think if he doesn't. Like, it's pretty clear to me, and this isn't official, I haven't heard this or anything, but my deduction at this point is Kuminga and his camp have gone to the Warriors and Kerr and said, either you're going to play him like real rotation minutes or you're not going to play him at all. Like, don't put him in like mop up blowout minutes. Like, that's disrespectful. I think that's what they're saying. Like, either he is in your top 7 playing rotational minutes or he's not playing at all. I think it's really toxic. I think there's going to be probably something coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if Marcus Thompson or Anthony Slater has a big piece coming out after the season, whether that's in a few days or whether it's in a month, about how toxic it got with Kuminga's camp and Kerr, and how, whether right or wrong, Kerr really did just kind of fall out of love with Jonathan Kuminga. All that being said, if that's the case, which I think it's pretty clear there is some bad blood, but be professionals tomorrow. Kerr taps him, says get in the game, and I think Kuminga, if you're not playing for your coach, play for your teammates and the fans. How about that? Right? Like,
that's a good sentiment.
I'm confident that if Kuminga gets in, he'll play his heart out. And I don't know if he's still the best fit, but not much else is working right now offensively. So maybe Kuminga just stretches the floor, gets in the paint. Maybe he gets a rebound. Maybe he dunks. Maybe he throws one down on Cancun and just changes the pace.
Yeah, give him a shot. I mean, they desperately need his rim pressure, his offense. Like, I thought he was going to play in the series coming into it because of how good he was against the Rockets during the regular season, and because they're clearly at a mismatch in terms of athleticism, in terms of speed, quickness, and Kuminga's their best asset there. But he even got a shot in what was it, game 3 without Jimmy, and he was missing back cuts and he was getting lost. And I can't entirely blame him. Like, Steve Kerr like yanks him out of the lineup in and out, and has probably the shortest leash of any player of this era.
I feel bad because it is hard. It's hard to play well when you get. It's like the whole baseball thing. Like, I can't get in a rhythm if I'm constantly pinch hitting and like being platooned for. I think that's relevant in basketball too, but kind of like you haven't earned the right to be a rotational guy. So I don't know. It's ugly. It's an ugly situation. It's uncomfortable. So hopefully, I mean, I think he's pretty clearly going to be on another team next year, but hopefully he can, if he gets in tomorrow and beyond, he can help the Warriors.
Totally. What adjustments would you like to see in Game 7?
So from an X's and O's standpoint, I think being able to attack the zone and have a good plan for the zone. Like, don't act like you're not expecting it. At least have a plan for it that isn't just end of shot clock deep threes, right? Like, don't dribble around until there's 7-8 seconds on the shot clock. And at the risk of sounding like Captain Obvious here, you're going to lose if you shoot 15 for 49 from 3. If they're in the 20% from 3, I think they're going to lose. If Steph's 6 of 16, like, horribly inefficient, if they can't knock down open shots, they're going to lose. It's a make or miss league. It's a make or miss sport. And Fred VanVleet's hitting 2/3 of his threes in this series.
Ridiculous. He's 17 for 25 since Game 3.
17 for 25 is legitimately like hilarious. Like that.
But
that is.
It also feels like I don't really understand what the game plan is against him. Like, it's not like they're heavily contested like when they're playing Steph.
No.
I'm not saying give him the Steph Curry treatment, but it almost feels like they're letting him shoot that and playing percentages of, oh, he was 33% this year. He's eventually going to start missing these, and that clearly hasn't happened.
I know. That's what I was about to say. It's almost like they're going, no way he's going to make this one, right?
Right.
Like, how about make Tari Eason or Jabari Smith Jr. take like 3 of his threes?
Or Dylan Brooks, or
Dylan Brooks, yeah.
Alperen Sengun outside of 3 feet.
I'm not going to be able to go on Twitter if they lose. I'm going to have to take a few days. The Dylan Brooks stuff, I've also, and at KNBR, we spent like the entirety of last week just like chirping Dylan Brooks.
Dude, Dylan Brooks is like the weirdest athlete of my lifetime, because as an Oregon grad, like, I was a senior in high school when
He's an Oregon guy.
Yeah, he led Oregon to a Final Four. He was like Pac-12 Player of the Year, had 2 buzzer beaters. Yeah, he was. Yeah. I don't know why he lasted to the second round, but I got his jersey in my closet right there, a Oregon Dylan Brooks jersey.
Get out of there.
But yes, ever since fucking you dirty undercut GP2 in 2022, I can't stand Dylan. And like, he gets worse and worse. He's also just like doesn't have the skills to back up his talk, and like every time he goes at someone, he just completely gets manhandled the second half. He was talking shit to Jimmy in Game 4. Jimmy has 23 points in the second half. Dylan Brooks doesn't score once. Like, but yeah, funny. I've never gone so 180 on an athlete like I have with Dylan Brooks.
I was in the building when ASU beat Oregon in 2019 to like basically ruin Oregon's season.
When Brandon Ayuk had 300 receiving yards.
The Jaden Daniels to Brandon Ayuk downfield shot.
We always had trouble in the desert, man.
Now. But the Giants had like a 5-run inning just now. You saw me looking down. They were down 3-1 to the Rockies, and now they're up 6-3.
Nice. All right, well, some tides are turning. At least the Giants are.
Well, the Giants, it should have been a 4-game sweep this weekend. Do you want to talk some Giants before we go?
Yeah. Last thing I want to say on the Warriors before we talk Giants. So, just a little more context on how bad they have been with that zone. Steven Adams in this series has a plus 53 with him on the court. When he's off the court, the Rockets are minus 39. And he played a season-high 31 points in Game 6. Rockets ran 18 possessions in the fourth quarter in that zone. The Warriors scored 6 points against it. They averaged less than 1 point a game against that zone. Jack, give me your Game 7 prediction for tomorrow night.
If you'd asked me last night, I would have said they lose by 8 to 12 points. I thought on it. I slept on it. I think my official prediction is that the Warriors win a close game in which Steph Curry doesn't have a monster game, but hits some huge shots down the stretch. I think Steph goes for 31. Jimmy Butler goes for 25. and that's enough to get it done. I think someone, maybe Brandon Pajemski, has a big scoring output. And I think I'm seeing a big Pods game. The Warriors win a tight game that takes everything out of them. They lose both in Minnesota and lose that series in 5 games.
I mean, I don't like the Minnesota part of it.
One more thing I'm going to add is I think the Warriors are, in terms of looking forward, I don't think they're going to beat Minnesota if they win tomorrow, but they need to win tomorrow just from a Steph legacy standpoint. I look at a lot of my NBA consumption through like a Steph legacy glass, and it's the first round. He's way older now. It wouldn't be catastrophic. I don't think the 3-1 thing would be like as like, obviously it was the finals and they were the best team ever that year, but having another loss where you were up 3-1 would be damaging. And I hate to see Steph's legacy damaged more than anything. I just like to see it slowly ascend. So they need to win tomorrow for a lot of reasons, but one of them is Steph Curry's all-important legacy.
It's a good point. I hope people are able to understand this is a 37-year-old with, outside of Jimmy Butler, has a lot of role players as teammates and has probably, we've seen the worst Draymond Green series of his playoff lifetime.
Top 5, top 7 all-time players win tomorrow. That's true.
So is that what we're cutting it off? If he doesn't win tomorrow, he's no longer in your top 7.
He can still be there. But I'm saying, like, I have Steph like third in a grossly biased hierarchy. Third best player of all time goes and wins Game 7 in Houston tomorrow. How about that, Steph? If you're listening.
Absolutely. Steph, if you're listening. All right, I got them winning a nail biter, a defensive battle, 94-90. Steph goes for 35, and I've looked like an idiot once, maybe twice now, but I'm going to say Jonathan Kuminga plays 15 minutes and plays some really important crunch time, gets a few inside dunks, doesn't get lost on defense. Maybe they are able to switch him onto Fred VanVleet a little bit. And I see him playing a little bit. I see a little bit of vintage Kevon Looney. I think we're going to sub out probably 10 of those Quentin Post minutes.
Let's get more Looney minutes over Post, man.
Come on, he made the most. He didn't make the rebound, but in Game 4, when Jimmy Butler jumps over Steven Adams, the whole reason he's able to get that rebound is because he's boxing out, and the only one that can actually put Steven Adams, every time he sees Quinn Post, just sees like a little fly on his arm that he's like, "Excuse me, get out of the way!" Like
that Shannon Sharp meme is like oxtail, collard greens. I think that's what Steven Adams sees when he sees Quentin Post. He's like, oh, I'm about to eat.
I'm having it all. Yeah.
I'm about to eat.
All right. Well, two biased Warrior fans have them winning tight games, but put it on the poster.
You think Steph gets 35 out of 94?
What do you think? Does he need to get 50 out of 94 for them to win?
No, I mean, I think if he scores 35, I would hope the Warriors would be at about 110.
Oh, dude, I've completely lost hope in all players not named Steph and Jimmy. I'm hoping I'm wrong, and I'm hoping Pods kind of regains the confidence he had of Game 3, but like, dude, these guys are just inconsistent, and Buddy Hield is starting, and we had GP2 starting for defensive purposes and just was getting lapsed by Fred VanVleet. I hope we go back to the same starting 5 that we had that worked all season and put Moody back in for Hield, put Pods back in for GP2. Like, they're 16-2 in the regular season with that starting 5. Why did Steve Kerr feel like, and I'm not going to question Steve Kerr, he's a 9-time champion, 4-time as a coach, and I don't want to keep getting down the rabbit hole, but I don't agree with some of the substitutions and some of the rotation changes we've made throughout the series.
Yep. Well, we'll know tomorrow. Are we going to be miserable this week?
All we can do is pray and hope. Go Dubs.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is all the questions I had, Jack. I really enjoyed having you on. Just came back from the press box at the Chase Center. Any last parting words? Is there anywhere we can kind of read you? Is there anything you've been posting lately that people can follow?
Always at KNBR.com and on KNBR, all socials on all platforms. You'll see my stuff. I don't really write basketball, honestly. I do a lot of baseball and football, but I edit, and all the clips you're seeing there are usually my babies and my team. So go check us out there. And tomorrow's Sunday. Get up, go to the Church of Steph Curry, worship, and buckle in for what is going to be a high stress and just 2-3 hours of like very little fun, and hopefully we come out relieved.
Steph is my religion, so prayers up. Night. Talk soon, Jack.
Thanks.
Take care, man.